Hey guys, welcome to your e-learning for today. Today we're going to be talking about finding the volume of a pyramid. So to find the volume of a pyramid, we take 1/3 and we multiply it times the base of the pyramid, the area of the base, times the height of the pyramid. The reason we use this capital B for base is because it can stand for a couple different bases. Because we won't always have a triangular base, but when you have a triangular base, remember that you use the formula 1/2 base times height. If we have a square base, we're going to use length times width, or if we have a rectangular base, we're going to use length times width, so on and so forth. Sometimes they're going to give us this area of the base, and sometimes they won't. But it's important to read your directions carefully and read the question carefully so you know what they're asking for. So in a polyhedron, any face that is not the base, we call a lateral face. So if I asked how many faces this pyramid has, I would say it has 1, 2, 3, because 1, 2, 3, because it has 3 faces around the center point there. And then it also has that bottom base. So I would say that has 4 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4 faces. If I was talking about side lengths, or sides, or edges, as we call it, that's what we call edges. Where 2 faces meet is called an edge. So this has 1 edge, 2 edge, 3 edge, 4 edge, 5, 6, 7 edges. And then a vertex is where where our sides meet right here. A vertex. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 vertexes. That's important to note, and a couple of your questions will have you figuring out how many faces, edges, and vertices problems have, and it is on your test. So let's go ahead and look at some examples with finding a volume of a pyramid. So our first example here, we are looking at finding the volume of this pyramid, and we need to round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to use our formula to find that. So first thing I notice is that they do not give me this area of the base. I need to find that for myself. They do give me the height, and I already know that 1/3. So to find the area of this base, I'm going to have to find the area of the bottom of that triangle, the base of that triangle, that pyramid, sorry, not triangle. So to find the area of that base, I'm going to take 3.2, multiply it by 1.4. When I multiply 3.2 by 1.4 times 1.4, I get 4.48. I'm not going to round to the nearest tenth yet because that's not my answer. That's just what I'm using. So I have 4.48 is our area of our base. Now I'll take that area of the base and plug it into my formula. I have 1/3 times the area of our base, which we have found is 4.48, times our height, which is 2.8. So now I can go ahead and plug that in. And how you'd plug that in is you could do it a couple ways. Let's do the 1/3 first. 1 divided by 3, 0.3 repeating, times 4.48 times 2.8. And remember, we're rounding to the nearest tenth here. So we have 4.2. And that is the volume of our pyramid. We found out how much space this pyramid takes up. We multiplied 3 things together. So we have inches cubed. Because remember, volume is cubed. Volume is cubed. Surface area we have squared, or area we have squared. And if we're finding perimeter or circumference, then we just have regular units. But with volume, we're cubing our units. Don't forget that. For our next example, we need to find the volume of this pyramid, and this time they've given us a triangular base for a pyramid. So the triangular base means that we have a triangle for our base. So instead of using this length times width or side squared if it was a square, tomato, tomato, length times width or side squared for a square is the same thing. But for a triangle, I'd have to do half times base times height. So for my triangle here, I have a triangle. It has a length of 8.1, and it has a height, sure, this side length is 6.4 right here. So there's our triangle, and now I need to find the area of this triangle. To find the area of this triangle, I'm going to have to do 8.1 times a 6.4 and divide that answer, whatever I get, by 2. So let's go ahead and plug that into our calculator. We have an 8.1 times 6.4, and then we'll divide it by 2. Now we get 25.92. Now I'm not going to round quite yet because I'm not at my answer yet. You can, but then you run the risk of your answer being a little bit off, which I don't want to do. Whoops. There we go, get rid of that. Alright, so we have 29.92, and that's meters squared for the area of our base. Now I need to plug that into our formula. So our formula is right up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 1/3, multiply it by that 25.92, and multiply both of those by the height, which in this case is 11. So when we multiply that out, and you could divide by 3 at the end or just do 0.3 repeating. So 1 divided by 3 is 0.3 repeating, times 25.92. Thanks to the commutative property of multiplication, we can multiply these in any order we want, but either way you should get 95. And then if we're rounding to the nearest tenth like it asks us to, we are not going to have to worry about that 0.04. So you could put 0.0 here if you feel so inclined. You do not have to. You can just put 95 meters cubed. And that would be the volume of that pyramid. Why don't you go ahead and go ahead and pause the video and attempt to solve this problem right here. This time they don't give you a picture, but they give you words. So they say, find the volume of a pyramid that has a height of 9 centimeters and a rectangular base with a length of 7 centimeters and a width of 3 centimeters. Use that information. I suggest drawing a picture and then unpause the video and we'll go over it. So you should have had enough time to go over that example. So let's go ahead and do it. So the volume of a pyramid that has the height of 9 centimeters. So we know the height is 9 centimeters. We know that has a rectangular base, so we know we're going to be using length times width to find the area of our base. And we know that the length is 7 and the width is 3. So 7 times 3 would give us that 21. So that's our area of the base of our rectangular base. So now we have 9 times 21 times 1/3, and we can go ahead and plug that into our handy dandy calculator. So we'll do 1 divided by 3 times 21 times 9, and we get 63. So 63 centimeters, and we're talking about volume, so it's cubed. Another type of problem that you can run into when talking about the volume of a pyramid is when we need to find the height of the pyramid. So this is an example where they give us the volume and we're going to have to use our formula here to find the height. So here it gives us the rectangular pyramid show has a volume of 90 cubic inches. Find the height of the pyramid. So I notice that as a rectangular base, so I know I'd be using that length times width for the area of that base. So let's write down what we know. Well, we know 1/3 times base times height equals the volume. So we know that 1/3 times the base, which I can tell is going to be 9 times 5, which is 45, times the height is going to be equal to 90 inches cubed. Now our answer is not going to be in cubic inches because we're just finding the height. We're not finding the volume. So I'll go ahead and do that 1/3 times 45 to go ahead and simplify my left side of my expression here. So 1 divided by 3 times a 45, we get 15. And you'd get that if you canceled it out when you're multiplying it. Like 3 cancels with 45 to get 15. We'd get 15 times h is equal to 90. Well, now it's just a one-step equation. We divide by 15. We divide by 15. Height is equal to whatever 90 divided by 15 is. So 90 divided by 15, we get 6. So our height is equal to 6, and we're in inches. So that's how we could use the information given to us and manipulate that formula a little bit so that we can go ahead and solve that problem. So why don't you go ahead and try to solve these two problems. Try to solve B and C. Go ahead and pause the video and try to solve those problems. And while you do that, after you do that, I'll give you the code for your assignment for today. So let's go ahead and go over these answers. If you haven't paused the video already and you're still solving them, go ahead and pause it now and then play it, and we will go over the answers. So for B, we know that it's a triangular pyramid, so we're going to be using that half base times height to find the base, because it gives us the triangular base with a base of 20 inches and a height of 21 inches. Okay, so I know, let's plug in what we know. We know 1/3 times base times height is equal to volume. So I know 1/3 times the base times the height is equal to 840 cubic inches. Okay, I know the base. To get the base, I'm going to have to do 1/2 times 20 times 21. So let's go ahead and just get this calculation out of the way and do it right now. Figure out what the area of that triangle for our base is. So I have 0.5 times 20 times 21. So 210. So now I have 1/3 times 210 times our height is equal to 840. Well, 1/3 times 210, in case you don't know, plug it into your calculator. That's what they're here for. And you get 70. So we get 70 times the height is equal to 840. Divide by 70. Divide by 70. So let's do 840. Divide by 70. And we get that the height is 12. We know we're in cubic inches, so we know that the height is in inches. So that's B. Let's go ahead and go over C. So in problem C, we see that it asks a rectangular pyramid has a volume of 525 cubic feet. It has a base of 25 feet by 18 feet. Find the height of the pyramid. So we know I have a rectangular pyramid. And if it helps to draw a picture, go ahead and do so. I'm just going to work with the information given though. I know that 1/3 times my base times my height is going to equal that 525 cubic feet. I know that this base is broken down by length times width. And I know that the base is 25 by 18. So let's go ahead and find that. 25 times 18 equals 450. So we have 1/3 times 450 times our height is equal to 525. So I'll take this 450, I'll divide it by 3. That's basically multiplying it by that 1/3. So we have 150 h is equal to 525. So now I need to divide this side by 150, divide this side by 150. So I'll take 525, divide it by 150, and I get 3.5. So the height of this rectangular pyramid has to be 3.5 feet. Hopefully you guys got those two. Hopefully this is making sense for you. If it's not, feel free to send me an email. If it is, you can go ahead and move on to your assignment. Your password is volume. And let's go ahead and do volume 3.5 to honor this answer right there. Volume 3.5 will be our password for your assignment. Again, if you're confused, guys, send me an email to set up a meeting so that I can talk you through the problems so that we can get you ready for your test. I hope you have a wonderful day. See ya.